It was one late afternoon in Vienna, when after a photo walk, I was relaxing with some friends in authentic beach chairs at a cafe outdoors. The light had just started to shift in a dramatic way. I looked up and saw the clouds folding into each other as if they just saw those life hack videos. It was one of those moments where there was no time for thoughts. It was simply me taking out my camera from the bag. I stood up, took a few photos, and that was it. A nice addition to that day's collection. And then I pressed the shutter a few more times, just to make sure. I didn't take this photo because I could explain it. I took it because I couldn't. I believe that art begins where explanation fails. It doesn't arrive when we have figured things out. It arrives when we cannot do that as we imagine. When the feeling is too large, or too quiet, or too strange to fit into any language. Art is not a conclusion, it's continuation. A way of staying with something that hasn't resolved. We often talk about art as if it's a message, something we send out into the world. But more often, it's a question, a hesitation, a way of saying, this moved me and I don't exactly know why, but I need to express that. And in that not knowing, something opens up, something honest, real. We don't make art because we are certain. We make it because we are not. Because something inside us is still shifting. Maybe we are trying to hold on to a moment that's already gone, or trying to make sense out of something that refuses to be understood. A photograph, a line from a poem, a pause in a melody, these aren't answers. They're attempts. They're the shape of a question we couldn't ask in words. And that's why art cannot be outsourced, not to another person, and certainly not to a machine, because no one else can feel for us. We have to do that ourselves. And if they cannot feel it, they cannot express it. At least when we ask another human to create something, a painting, a song, a film, we know that what we will receive is their version, their lens, their feeling. That's the point. This is the best case scenario. We are not outsourcing the emotions, we are inviting someone else's into the process. However, when we turn to a machine, we are not inviting anything. We are not collaborating or communicating. We are just feeding it prompts and waiting for it to spit something back, which we pretend to recognize as what we wanted. And when it does, we shout Eureka and then we call it art. Spoiler alert, it's not. Because it didn't come from a place of feeling or from a moment. It didn't come from someone trying to make sense of something which they witnessed. The resemblance with the end result does not mean the same values. The difference lies in the origin when we are talking about something this profound. We've confused execution with intention. We've mistaken output for expression. But art doesn't come from following instructions or from a checklist. It comes from the part of us that doesn't know what it's doing and yet searching. Still unsure, still trying to find the right shape for something that hasn't formed yet. Machines don't search out of desire. They don't hesitate because they cannot care. They don't feel the weight of the moment or the silence between two thoughts. They don't know what it means to be overwhelmed by something you cannot articulate and yet try anyway. Still, we have started to treat them as if they do. We have started to believe that if the result looks close enough, the process doesn't matter. But the process is what art is all about. The struggle, the doubt, the revision, the decision to keep going. That's where the meaning lives. Art cannot be outsourced, not because the machines aren't good enough yet or technology isn't advanced enough, but because they were never meant to feel. And if they can't feel, they don't have the desire to express. And if they cannot express it in that sense, they cannot create art. They can only simulate it. And simulation is not the same thing as creation. It is actually the illusion of creation. There's a difference between making art only for the end result and when it means something. And that's the line we've started to blur. Not just in how we talk about AI, but in how we talk about art itself. We've become so focused on the result, the image, the song, the paragraph, that we've stopped asking where it came from or why it was made in the first place. AI can execute, that's not in question. It can generate images that looks like painting. It can write sentences that sound like poetry. It can mimic tone, structure, and even style. But then we somehow smile when we hear the song about a girl sitting in a cafe or a guy making drawing of a face on a napkin at a bar which resembles your face perfectly. We are connecting to the person's experience who wrote that song. And even if it is out of imagination, we feel a connection to that shared desire. Cliches, I know, but then you just might already be smiling right now. When a person makes something, there's a reason. It might be clear or it might be buried. It might be joyful or painful or completely irrational, but it is there. And that's what gives the work its weight. That's what makes it more than decoration. With AI, there is no intention, there is no internal state, no memory of the moment, so no holding on to that memory. That's why we lose the connection, or there was never a connection in the first place. No fear of failure because no risk involved. Just a system trained to recognize patterns and reproduce them in ways that seem familiar. And yet we've started to treat them as equivalent. It's like reading a love letter written with every word by random people and assuming that it is for your address. It might have the right words, it might even sound beautiful, but it was not written with you in mind. We have built a system that imitates the surface of art, but the surface was never the point. The point was the tension underneath, the contradiction, the confusion, the attempt to say something that couldn't be said in any other way. That's what intention does. It gives the work a center, a reason to exist. Without that, we are left with execution. And execution without intention is just noise. Here's a wordplay for you. Art is created by real and emotions, not artificial and intelligence. I think two words in AI can make very useful toolbox, but they lack the most important tool for this particular task. Let's talk about the name artificial intelligence. Artificial, that is man-made, using the words-based labels that we have assigned to things that we don't understand clearly in the first place, from the things we carry but we can't quite name. And intelligence, that's the second misdirection. Because art doesn't come from intelligence. It doesn't come from logic or calculation or the ability to process vast amount of data. It comes from emotion, from longing, from grief and silence. So what happens when we use a tool built for thinking in words to do a job that requires feeling? It creates something that is simulation of a feeling. And as mentioned earlier, the core of art is the feelings, the rawness and contradiction, the part of us that doesn't resolve neatly. And when we get something that is all surface, all polish and no weight, no contradiction, no tension, just a smooth, frictionless output that mimics the shape of meaning without ever touching it. And the more we use that language, AI-generated art, creative machines, intelligent systems, the more we start to believe it. Yes, someone gave these names to these systems, but were we not supposed to ask the question, what do they mean by these terms in the first place? We say artificial intelligence enough times, and we start to believe there's something behind it, something sentient, something creative, something that understands. There isn't. These are just marketing tactics to sell us yet another project or product. What we are calling intelligence is just pattern recognition. A machine trained to predict the next word or the next pixel based on what it has seen before. It doesn't know what it's saying, it doesn't know what it's making. More importantly, it doesn't know you. And yet, we keep using the language of personhood. We say AI wrote something, that it created an image, that it understands our prompt, but it doesn't. It doesn't even know what a prompt is, it doesn't know what a person is, and it doesn't know what it means to want to say something and not know how. This is not just a semantic issue. It's not just about being precise. It's about how we frame the entire conversation. Because if we keep using the wrong words, we will keep asking the wrong questions. We will keep expecting things from the machines that they were never built to give. And worse, we will start expecting less from ourselves. We will start to believe that art is just a matter of style, that creativity is just a matter of output, that meaning is optional and feeling is inefficient. But art has never been efficient. It's never been about just getting the job done. It's about staying with the thing that won't let you go. It's about making something that didn't exist before. Not because it was needed, but because it was first felt and then got turned into the need to express. Or you can just imagine Leonardo da Vinci telling Mona Lisa for, "Can you smile 10% less or 5% more? Yeah, stay like this, stay like this." Photography taught me this, not in theory, in practice, in the quiet, in the waiting, in the moments when I didn't know what I was looking for until I saw it. You don't take a photo because it's perfect, you take it because something moved you, because something shifted in the light, in the air, but more importantly, in you. And you knew, without needing to explain it, that this was the moment worth holding on to. I've stood in places where the light was wrong, the timing was off, the framing didn't work, and still I waited. Not because I knew what I was waiting for, but because I was anticipating that something was about to happen. This is not a technical decision or calculation. It inclines more towards intuition, presence. And when the moment came, when the light finally broke through, or the subject just turned slightly, or the silence deepened into something I couldn't name, I pressed the shutter, partially to capture what I saw, and the rest to hold on to what I felt. That's what photography is. It's not about the image only, it's about the moment behind it. The moment that would have disappeared if you hadn't been there to notice it, to respond to it. That's the difference. AI can generate an image, but it cannot witness a moment. It wasn't there. It didn't feel the wind change. It didn't hear the silence before the shutter clicked. It didn't hesitate. It didn't decide. I cannot get completely exhausted, yet stay for just a bit more. The only waiting time is for the processing time or the cheaper system, whichever is slower. It doesn't miss a shot and feel the sting of it. It doesn't walk away wondering if it should have stayed a bit longer. It doesn't remember the sound of the street or the smell of the air or the way of the light that made everything felt slightly unreal. It just generates. It fills in the blank. It guesses what a group of ducks swimming might look like based on millions of other ducks it has seen. But it has never been to the place to actually see them. It's never watched the voices go quiet. It's never been made to feel the loneliness afterward. That's the gap we are trying to ignore. We look at an image and say, "This looks real." But real isn't how something looks, it's how it was made. It's what it meant to the person who made it. It's the feeling that led to the frame. Photography is proof, not of what was there, but of who was there, of what they noticed, of what they couldn't let go of. That's what gives it weight. That's what makes it art. And that's what no machine can replicate. Because what the toolbox is missing is the reason. This was my brief opinion on this subject as a conversation starter. Write down your thoughts and send it to someone who would also like to keep this conversation going. Like, share, and subscribe, and until next time.